Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman. Do 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 do. Bum 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 bum. Where did this one even come from? Panasonic? No, Panavision. For the human animation thing, I'll need to do like some facial capture camera stuff at some point. I've got a 3D printer, I can make something. But I wondered whether, I could do something around one of these. I get all sorts of weird souvenirs from like my dad's work. Do you know, I was looking at offices recently. Oh, that's a problem. I've got nowhere to put drink. Oh. I was looking at offices recently. Not that I need one, because we got this studio. Not that I can afford one at the moment. Patreon. Because the idea of space really interests me, like how to use space. Because one thing I learned from the studio is that if you've got a large space, if you really want to maximize it, stick to the boundary. Never act perpendicular to a space, to the boundary of a space. I mean, I have done that in a few places, but then perpendicular things just sort of become like congestion points, even for clutter. So I look at these massive warehouses and I think, how do you really like maximize space in that? And even when looking at the computer layout here, I look at the exact position that the camera is that I use for all my videos and I think, do I actually need to use that like separately? I mean, because I haven't paid for a separate camera for doing like markerless mocap stuff. So I was looking at the exact position there thinking, wait, what if I don't move the camera and just like put something flat here? I mean, from the camera perspective, it might as well just be anywhere else in the studio, but then, performance, and I wouldn't have to move it. Wouldn't have to disconnect it. And then when thinking along those lines, I was like, is there like a perfect digital workspace layout? I mean, I've been optimizing it over time. 3 monitors, left one vertical, center one horizontal, right one horizontal, elevated shelf space to the left, lower shelf space to the right, which moves under the desk and comes in and out. Treadmill, I don't know if you've seen the treadmill, that's right here. Hang on. Because, exercise is important. So technically, I mean, we can chat while I do this. Air conditioning unit is right above the digital space. Now, this doesn't take much space as it is. I just kind of find it interesting that as I'm like designing tools and stuff, I'm thinking, wait, I've been designing perfect workspace over the years. What if workspace becomes motion capture space without any other arrangements? In which case, there's still all this space left to use. It's just a reminder that you might not actually need as much space as you think you do. Is this like an intrinsically American aesthetic? Curtis. Something can also be said about standing up. I've got like a fair number of executive dysfunction issues. It's a bit of a problem when you're like your own CEO of your own skill sets, I guess. But everything is important and you're stuck with decision paralysis and you don't know where to go. I wonder if it's useful at any point to like stand up and move away and then scrutinize yourself. Like, I mean, you probably look quite stupid having a conversation with yourself, but okay, hey man, how's products going? What, perpetual or exclusive? Well, both, because you're running both, right? So tell me about both. Okay, perpetual, there's not really much movement because we reallocated time to working on the, subscription type stuff. Why did you deallocate time to that? Why not chunk it up into different time periods? Well, because I'm not very good at organizing different time periods. Well, maybe that's something you can work on, blah, 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 blah. Maybe a bit of separation and talking to yourself like outside of your digital space is actually useful. Obviously, I did think about AI for that, which I think there's some utility in that, rather just like not using it to make decisions for you, but using it as like an external agent to kind of move the locus, just something that tricks you into breaking out of like your dysfunction habits, your executive dysfunction. Something I really do need to work on, especially for time allocation. Talking about tricks. All right, let me show you like a really silly but good investment, okay? A box of mini die, or dice. I suppose dice is the plural. All right, so here's the thing. I didn't think about this before I got it. I just wanted some dice to roll to like choose random tasks from a list, okay? So that's gamification, fine, quite basic. But one thing I noticed was that because I like fidgeting a lot, doodling, fidgeting, whatever. Having one in my hand is frustrating because I want more to play with. And then I told myself, wait, what if every die represents a significant task completed during a day? So then I started completing tasks, and then when a major one was done, I would grab another one and then let myself fidget with it. And my record so far is about 5. So about 5 dice. Then I'm like, yes, it's a lot to play with. And then at the start of the next day, it resets. And there seems to be some kind of effectiveness in this because it's almost like, I mean, it's so silly, like, yeah, having to like trick the brain a little bit, but it's like there are so many high level and technical things like to work on, but the brain is like, I just want to play with dice. The child never left. If you see me drinking with straws, by the way, this is another little tip for you. Teeth staining, better to drink through a straw. Although this is a plastic one, I know, not very good. Although for some reason, many a year ago, my mum brought thousands of plastic straws in bulk. We have been getting through them, I shit you not, for about a decade, maybe longer. We had a house in Florida for about, well, the better part of that decade, moved some of the straws to the Florida house, used them there every day, and then when selling the house, re-imported the straws back to the UK. I have no idea how or why we ended up with that many straws, but I hope we have not killed any turtles. Give me 1 sec, I'm just going to collect some tomatoes. I've been learning to grow tomatoes and other vegetables. They're going good, but they take a little while to ripe. These ones are small. God, I love the smell. If you've grown tomatoes before, you know exactly what I mean. They have a very strong smell to them, but it's a nice one. All right, this is just a test for doing a stand-up recording. Stand-up. So, what about Argentina? Get fucked. If you're unaware, recently I've been working on a human animation pipeline between Unreal and Blender and my own custom scripts, and trying to investigate different pieces of software to see, what would be viable for creating high quality character animations without any like proper mocap setup. We do markerless motion capture, so it's just using videos. There are a lot of promising results with it, but there's also like a lot of, problems that I'm bumping into with other software, but it's actually given me an opportunity to come up with ideas for new tools to write. Because I'm not an animator, I'm a developer. It's really interesting, like finally investigating the process and like seeing what I can do. But on my Patreon, on the July production files for Project Fold, because this work is contributing towards my own production, I have included a reference board. So this is a PureRef file. PureRef is free to download, but they do have a paid version as well if you want to support the developer. So basically people can see how my investigation is going, the solutions that I come up with, and get access to the Python files that I'm making along the way. They won't be easy to follow, I will say. It's not a tutorial and it's not designed for other people to use, but I figure it's important that if I'm making discoveries as part of my project, that the people that are supporting me should be able to look into that and see if they could even adapt it for their own work. So I just wanted to let you know about that in case you find it interesting. A new resource has been added for Silver Tier members, which is the microscopy video samples. This is a collection of footage from different microscopies performed inside of the studio, and you're free to use them for whatever you want if you're signed up. I in particular quite like the film grainy effect on these as well, so I'm kind of imagining zooming in a little bit on these and using them as like interest footage for maybe like title sequences or cutting between different things. You could also sample imagery from them for like material samples or references for different types of style work. A lot of them are hematology based, but some of them are not. You may find it interesting. I think sometimes it can be a little bit hard to like find like general scientific footage for the types of things you might want to put on screens in your 3D environments. And even then the licensing might be a little bit weird. So just want to let you know that you can use these because I will be using them too. They'll just be collected on this new post from now on. So on my website, I have a page called The Connected Space, which talks about my new production project, which we're working on animated shorts and 2D artwork and comic type stuff. It's going to be a really long-term project as well, but you can have a look as we're chipping away at different things. But on the members lounge on my website, which is where like my patrons get to browse the content they can access, what I've done is I've added a section where the content from the Connected Space project is now organized into collections. So these collections are also synchronized with Patreon. So if I click on it, you'll be able to see like the storyboards in this case, but it's just a way to make it easy for people to browse the different types of content, because now we've got so many different types of content available for people. Like I've got my full products, I've got resources of all various kinds. We're also now getting to like pipeline and workflow stuff, which I may need to do new section for, and now fictional type stuff. I understand that it's a little bit difficult for people to keep on top of everything, so that's why I've set up these collections, just to make it a bit easier. And it also helps me to understand as well that everything should tie into everything else, that no project is completely distinct from everything else. And that's why I've kind of been starting to blend everything together under this Patreon lens. We're working on the production, helps to work on files, and it helps to get other stuff released for people. And now finally I can start hiring concept artists for little jobs here and there, which is something I'll hopefully have more to share with you soon. A new section has been added to the Science Bible / primers on the Connected Space project. So there's a very specific type of science that's kind of powering these stories. And what I've done here is, even though there's a free introduction introduction to the project, for the Silver Tier members, there are some more in-depth posts kind of explaining more about the philosophy, the metaphysics, if you like. And there are some quite existential questions in here that I think people will be able to apply to their own lives as well. If you find yourself being a bit of an existential person, you might find it interesting. Specifically, the new post over here, Hallucination and Continuity, says, are ghosts real? Did the past really happen? Does a ceiling fan really spin? Or are you just a memory? These questions have more in common than you might expect. I really like this post, and it is actually more in line with how I look at, reality. Not everything in this project is exactly how I see things or what I believe about the universe, but it's a way for me to explore ideas that have been really bugging at my mind. So, that'll be bleeding its way into artwork in the future. If you want to read it, then it's there. And these posts also have downloadable PDFs in them as well. If there's a demand for it, then I can do like an audio book type recording. But yeah, go to soul.online/theconnected space.